So hi, Happy New Year, everyone. So what I want to talk about today is how my New Year's Eve was, and unfortunately, it wasn't very happy. So nothing awful happened. I just got drunk, and it was bad drunk as opposed to good drunk. And a few people might know instantly what I mean by that. I just got really depressed and broody. What triggered it was I saw a discussion online about which mentioned fertility provision for transgender people, and this particular young woman, she contacted the Wales Fertility Institute, and she was saying how great they were, they used the right pronouns and everything, and they were really, really helpful. So she was looking forward to making a fertility provision and then starting on HRT. So, and everybody was saying how wonderful, I mean, well, not everybody was saying how wonderful the HRT Wales Fertility Institute is, but I don't think people realise that this is only a recent thing, um, because when I phoned up the Wales Fertility Institute, and this was only at the end of 2016, so it wasn't a long time ago, phoned them up prior to starting HRT, and I explained that I was a trans woman who was about to go on to HRT, and I wanted fertility storage, and I asked if they provided that, and conversation didn't last very long. They just said no. So I, went to a private clinic then, and I have fertility storage provision, but I have to pay £250 a year for it. Actually, the payment's coming up this January. Um, in the meantime, there was a kind of the equalities body, which I think is called the ECHR or something like that. They approached NHS England and Scotland. They approached NHS England, but in the meantime, and and they said to them, look, if you don't provide fertility provision for transgender people, that's discrimination, and we're going to take you to court. So in the end, NHS England agreed to provide fertility provision to transgender people, just like they do for anybody who is undergoing an NHS procedure that will most likely make them infertile. So they kind of agreed to do that, and I got the impression quite begrudgingly. But in the meantime, Wales Fertility Institute seems to also now be providing fertility provision for trans people. So, but that doesn't do me much good, because I am now paying £250 a year on top of all the other bills for you know to have my fertility preserved to a private clinic. Now I'm going to be doing that for the rest of my life, but because now I started HRT, obviously I don't produce sperm anymore, um, so that's a good example there of how even when a discriminatory act stops, it can still affect people and have an impact on their lives. Because I'm not the only person who they turned away. I pretty much, I never met anybody else who they turned away, but I'm pretty sure that if I were to ask the question, lots of other trans people would say the same thing, because they were just turning people away back in 2016. And I I'm quite lucky because I can actually pay for this. I mean, I know it's the second best to having it paid for on the NHS like everybody else, but I, I can pay for it. But what if I lost my job? You know, and I couldn't pay anymore? Then I wouldn't, I would lose the right to have children then, to have biological children. And also, what about all the people who they turned away who couldn't afford fertility provision? You know, unemployed people. A lot of trans people are unemployed prior to transition because the job market is difficult for us, because we don't, you know, people, even though firms and organisations say they support transgender people, they they prefer to have somebody who conforms to a gender, you know, and that's wrong because, like, by doing that they exclude non-binary people as well. But yeah, supposing somebody couldn't afford that and they would just walk away then and just lose their opportunity to have biological children. So that's their human right taken away, you know, and they might have really wanted children at one stage or even been in a relationship. So yeah, that is what I was upset about, and I was crying because I thought, well, you know, I want to be a young woman now, you know, a young trans woman now. Although things aren't that perfect now, but by far from it. But still, you know, these organisations, and you can bet somebody like the Wales Fertility Institute, they'll be there now kind of flag waving on Pride Day saying how trans friendly they are and how, you know, what allies they are to the trans community. But actually they're not, because I mean, I'm only one of probably thousands of people whom they turned away, who now has to pay on top of all their bills about £250, £300 for fertility provision, all because it's like an extra tax, but a tax, you know, on being trans and wanting to have biological children. So what other minority group could they get away with doing that to? You know, if they were to pick another minority group, you know, that it would be a scandal. But as we all know, the media isn't on our side. Neither the right-wing media nor a lot of the left-wing media are on our side. And, you know, it's just wrong. It's just so wrong. But I just wish that, you know, I don't know why they had to be discriminatory like that. Because I can pay for it now, but still, £250 is a lot of money to me. I'm just an ordinary worker, you know? It's just, it's wrong. And people who are, as I said, trans people who are unemployed effectively were told that they couldn't have children because obviously they couldn't pay for private, you know, fertility storage or the private clinics. So that's their chance to have biological children gone. It's a scandal and nobody cares because it just affects trans people. So yeah, so that's why I was upset. And I will finish here now, and I wish everybody a happy new year, and I just hope that things get better for the trans community and all this discrimination stops and all this persecution by TERFs and the far right stops. But we've got a very far right government that's sort of being elected now in the UK, so there'll be a lot of challenges up ahead, I think. So yeah, but anyway, I love you all, and stay strong, everyone. And if you've had a similar experience to me, if you've been turned away by the NHS because you wanted to make fertility provision prior to transitioning with HRT, or you know, having your eggs sort of frozen if you're a trans man, please let me know, because I know I'm not alone, and I think it's a tragedy. You know, it really is a tragedy. So take care, everyone, and lots of love to you all. Bye.